What's up, guys? This is NR Station, and today I am going to be doing a reaction video to 5 Spider-Man stories we want to see on film. Now, if you have not seen Spider-Man, then you'll definitely want to see this. Or, wait a minute. No, actually, before you watch this video on YouTube, you gotta watch the whole Spider-Man series, and then if you really want to see any good 5 Spider-Man stories from the comics that you want to see in the movie, tell me which one you think is your favorite. And if you like what you saw, smack the like button, and subscribe to my channel, comment, and turn on the notification bell. Here we go.
Spider-Man.
Not in that onesie, you're not.
With nearly 60 years worth of comics under his belt, everyone's favorite friendly neighborhood Spider-Man certainly has no shortage of awesome stories that can be pulled from for his big screen film adaptations. And while we've gotten quite a few awesome ones, such as Spider-Man 2's retelling of the Spider-Man No More story arc, or Into the Spider-Verse's adaptation of, well, Spider-Verse.
If you have not seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it's going to be a really good movie. But if you hate the movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that's okay. Everybody has their own opinion.
There are a lot of others that we haven't seen yet that I personally think are more than worthy of getting the old movie treatment. And that...
Actually, I have not seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so I guarantee you it's going to be a great movie once I watch it. Hopefully I like it. I will like it, because I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man.
That is precisely what I'm going to be talking about here today. I'll go through some of the best, most noteworthy story arcs from Spider-Man's history and explain why they could make for some fantastic entries in his cinematic ventures.
Okay, you go ahead and do that.
So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it.
Pizza time.
Let's start this list off with what is easily the longest single story arc on the entire list. In fact, it might just be one of the longest in Spider-Man's entire history. I'm talking about, of course, the Clone Saga.
Ooh, the Clone Saga. Yeah, the Clone Saga. But not for the reasons you think. I don't know what the Clone Saga is about, but I'm gonna have to watch this video and find out.
In the 1970s, a comic storyline introduced a clone version of Peter Parker to comic readers everywhere, and the two were pitted against each other. And after a large explosion, the clone was seemingly killed, and Peter dropped his body into an incinerator. However, the way the comic was written left some ambiguity over whether or not it was the real Peter who survived, or the clone. Something that did eat away at Parker's sanity over the years. Fast forward quite a ways, and the clone resurfaced, having taken on the name Ben Reilly, after, of course, Peter's Uncle Ben, and using Aunt May's maiden name.
What? That's crazy! That's so cool!
And he was operating as his own superhero, the Scarlet Spider. After coming into contact with Kane and Spider-Side, 2 other failed clones of Peter Parker, who turned to a life of villainy, it was revealed that Ben was in fact the real Peter Parker, and the Spider-Man we knew and loved was the clone all along.
Oh my God!
In light of this, Ben took up the mantle of Spider-Man, and Peter retired from superherodom, instead choosing to focus his time on his forthcoming child, as Mary Jane was pregnant at the time.
Really? Mary Jane was gonna have a baby with Peter Parker? Aw, how sweet. Okay, irregardless, let's go. Excuse me, guys, I just passed gas.
And Ben was indeed Spider-Man for a little while, until it was discovered that Norman Osborn had actually faked the medical report that claimed Peter was a clone in an attempt to fully break Peter's spirit. So Peter returned to being Spider-Man, and Ben Reilly went off and had his own adventures as the Scarlet Spider. Now, this could potentially be a fantastic story to base a film around that really explores Peter Parker's psyche, something that other Spider-Man films have only really scratched the surface of. Though it would take a crazy amount of setup to get us to the point that it could be executed properly. But if it could be done right, I think it would make for a killer movie. Plus, come on, who wouldn't want to see Spider-Man fighting another Spider-Man? While this is technically more of a Kraven-focused story than Spidey, Kraven's Last Hunt is a fantastic bit of storytelling and probably the definitive Kraven the Hunter story
Sorry,
arc.
guys, I'm just
After
adjusting
hunting
my
Spider-Man for
headphones.
quite a long time, Kraven finally got the drop on the old webhead
that's
and
not
seemingly
good.
shot him dead, burying him in a shallow grave. Afterwards, wanting to prove himself superior to his foe in nearly every way, including what Spider-Man did for a living, he donned a replica Spider-Man suit and began hunting down and brutally beating criminals all over New York.
Oh my gosh. That's not good. Wait, is it? Excuse me, guys.
Finally managing to capture a villain by the name of Vermin by himself.
Vermin?
Spidey had
Oh
just
my
recently
gosh.
required the help of Captain America to take down. Around this time, Spider-Man actually woke up, it having been revealed that he was only actually shot with a tranquilizer, and he went out and found Kraven, who refused to fight back,
What? That's not good.
claiming that he had won and his work was complete at that point. He then released
Yeah.
Vermin and told Spider-Man that he could go chase after him, as Kraven's hunting days were now over. And he meant it, as he went home, laid out evidence that he had been the one who had been beating criminals senseless, then, finally satisfied with what he had achieved, he took his own life.
Oh man! That is so bad.
That, got dark really quick. But darkness aside, it's a pretty fantastic story that really gets to the heart of the obsessive nature of Kraven's character. And since most Marvel villains only really get one movie appearance before they're taken out, unless your name's like Loki or Thanos or something, if you're gonna have Kraven in a Spider-Man film, why not include what is arguably his best story, and let him go out on his own terms?
What's that?
What happens
Stop
when you give an
there.
entire city superpowers and then let them do whatever they want with them? Exactly what you would think would happen. Absolute chaos. Spider Island was a
Gosh.
story arc that started with a supervillain named the Jackal, who hatched a
The
plan to create
Jackal?
as much
Oh my
havoc as
gosh.
possible in New York by infecting citizens with spider-based powers, turning them into superpowered monstrosities. The Avengers eventually got involved and actually told Spider-Man to stay out of the fight, as it would be too difficult to tell him apart from all the other spiders. But he did eventually start leading a group of do-gooder citizens into battle. This one would be another situation where we would be able to see Spider-Man effectively fight himself. And it could actually be a pretty awesome way to introduce some of the different Spider people into the MCU if they wanted to. We got Spider-Girl, Silk Spectre, Spider-Woman,
Oh my
maybe
gosh.
even Scarlet Spider or Miles Morales if you really want to get crazy with it. Though it
Okay.
would probably have to be a big movie to achieve all of it. You know how everyone joked that Captain America Civil War was just Avengers 2.5? Well, this
Yeah.
would probably have to be Avengers 4.5. Just a Spider-Man focused team-up movie. Now this story right here I'm including purely because I am a big fan of the 2099 stories, and
2099. I might be dead by 2099. When I'm around 98 years old, I hope. Not.
I think a future shifted sub-series within the MCU could be pretty awesome. Oh yeah, I'm talking about Spider-Man 2099. The story
Ooh.
introduces us to Miguel O'Hara, a scientist working as the head of genetics for Alchemax, a major megacorporation
What?
operating out of Nueva York, the future version of New York City. While working on a project trying to recreate the original Spider-Man, a freak accident causes Miguel to try to quit. I say try,
Oh my
as the head
God.
of Alchemax, Tyler Stone, tricked him into becoming addicted to a drug produced by Alchemax that kind of messed with his genetics.
Ah, shoot. I'm glad I don't do drugs.
In an attempt to keep him bound to the company. Instead, Miguel worked within his lab to try to remove the addiction, but accidentally became bonded with some of the genetic material they were using on the Spider-Man project, turning him into the 2099 version of the hero and setting him on a path that would put him in direct conflict with Stone and Alchemax as a whole. Now, as I said at the top of this entry, it could be pretty cool to see a 2099 sub-series within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Just imagine it. We could not just bring in Spider-Man 2099, but Punisher 2099, Ghost Rider 2099, heck, maybe even bring in Ravager, the 2099 exclusive character, all leading to an Avengers 2099 team-up film.
Or even Deadpool 2099. That would be awesome.
Now, how many more times can I say 2099 before we all go crazy?
I'm not
Let's
sure.
Try not to find out, shall we? Now, okay, this final entry might technically be cheating, as we kinda got it at the beginning of Into the Spider-Verse, sort of, but I think a dedicated film based off of the death of Spider-Man would make for a fantastic way of sending off Tom Holland's version of the character. as his solo films within the MCU come to a close. Running concurrently with the Ultimate Avengers vs. New Ultimates story arc, The Death of Spider-Man sees Peter Parker trying to balance both that conflict, which is doing incredible damage to the world around him, and a recently escaped team of supervillains made up of Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Kraven, Sandman, Electro, and Vulture. You notice that supervillain teams always come in sixes? This team caused him a lot of trouble, and even specifically sought out his family and loved ones.
He killed them.
That's rough.
Osborn actually killed him.
And predictably, things did not go super well for Spidey. First, he took a bullet saving Captain America from the Punisher. Then he had to take on Electro, Sandman, and Vulture outside of Aunt May's house while, bleeding from a gunshot wound. This battle itself ended in Peter getting beaten to near death right before Aunt May put 3 rounds into Electro's chest.
Oh my God.
Green Goblin then jumped into the fray, this time souped up beyond normal levels, only to get hit by a truck driven by Mary Jane.
Ha! In your face! But poor Spider-Man, he could have gotten hurt.
Spider-Man then threw said truck at Osborn, which resulted in a massive explosion that not only killed the Green Goblin, but left Spidey mortally wounded.
Ouch! He did get injured! What the heck?
He then died in front of Mary Jane, May, and a few others, stating with his final breaths that he had finally made up for not being able to save his Uncle Ben by having saved his Aunt May. The death of Spider-Man, of course, led directly into the introduction of Miles Morales as the new Ultimate Spider-Man, which actually could be a way forward for Spider-Man within the MCU. As we all know at this point, Sony is dead set on bringing the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man into their Venomverse, leaving the MCU without a webhead. So why not do something similar to Death of Spider-Man and give the MCU Miles while Sony gets Peter? It could be one way to go. Plus, come on, the emotional payoff of seeing Peter give it his all and follow in his mentor Iron Man's footsteps and make the ultimate sacrifice could be a good way to wrap up his arc within the MCU. As in those final moments, he really would be the new Iron Man.
Okay, so this was a really interesting video I just saw. 5 Spider-Man stories we wanted to see on film in a nutshell. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at youtube.com. And turn on the notification bell if you liked it. Thank you.